Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to continue with the January 2018 paper 2. So we're continuing, we at number 2 now. The last video we did number 1, and so we are going to do number 2 now from the January 2018 POB paper 2. And so this one, this question is from the legal aspects of business part in the syllabus, and so most of it deals with contracts. And so number 2A, define each of the following legal concepts. And the first one is counter offer, and the second one is invitation to treat. So what is a counter offer? So a counter offer, based on the textbook, a counter offer is an alternative offer made by the offeree. So it's an alternative offer made by the offeree. And so you see the example that I depict right here. This is the offerer. He made an offer of $5 per pound to the offeree, and the offeree decided that is too high, so the offeree made a counter offer to the offerer. So a counter offer terminates the original offer and therefore becomes the new offer, and that it comes from the offeree. So you have to note that part. That part is significant, that it came from the offeree, not the offerer. So a counter offer terminates the original offer and it therefore becomes a new offer, and it's a alternative offer made by the offeree. So an alternative offer made by the offeree. And then the second one asks invitation to treat. What is invitation to treat? An invitation to treat is an announcement of willingness to enter into negotiations. It is not an offer and therefore cannot be accepted to form a contract. So you have to note this carefully. An invitation to treat is an announcement of willingness to enter negotiation. So it's just willingness to enter the contract or enter negotiation. It is not an offer and therefore cannot be accepted to form a contract. So an invitation to treat is not a contract. It's an announcement to show willingness to enter into a contract. For example, if you put up a for sale sign for something, then if somebody comes and all is gone, then you can't sue them and say, you know, it's a contract, I came to buy. No, it was an offer for those who are willing to enter into negotiations. And so that's an invitation to treat. So you knock off that, you get 2 marks. Then the other part, number 2B, describe 2 characteristics of a simple contract. 2 characteristics of a simple contract. And so most contracts in general would have some key parts: offer, acceptance, consideration. All those are in a contract. But a simple contract, so a simple contract is a simple agreement between 2 parties which may be verbal, written, or implied by the conduct or action of the parties involved. So characteristic, simple contract right here, does not have to be written, can be verbal, implied, or written. So it's a must to be written. Must have consideration to be enforced. Of course, there must be consideration in any contract, but the simple contract, there must be consideration to be enforced. Does not have to be signed, sealed, and delivered. So all those are differences and thus characteristics of a simple contract. Does not have to be written, can be verbal, implied, or written, must have consideration to be enforced, and does not have to be signed, sealed, or delivered. All those are characteristics of a simple contract. Here we have some examples of a simple contract in the textbook. For example, the owner of a shop will enter into a simple contract with every customer visiting the shop and making a purchase. In doing so, the shopkeeper agrees to supply the goods the customer wants to buy in return for payment. In turn, the customer agrees to pay the price marked on the goods. Unless the customer subsequently has to return the goods for replacement or a refund because they are unsuitable or faulty in some way, the contract for sale is complete at the point the customer pays for the goods and leaves the shop. Most transactions in business involve simple contracts, whether they involve purchasing stationery from a local supplier, traveling by taxi or bus, posting a business letter, or buying a sandwich. So those are characteristics of the simple contract. Then the other question, you describe any 2. Right, the other question asking, state two characteristics of a specialty contract now. Two characteristics of a specialty contract. And so we have a specialty contract right here. Must be written, cannot be enforced without considerations such as a deed of gift. Can be enforced without considerations such as the deed of gift, must be signed, sealed, and delivered. So those are characteristics of the specialty contract. So in contrast, specialty contracts are more complex, so that's one, they are more complex and formal written agreements. They are also known as deeds or contracts under seal because each party to a specialty contract must sign the contract to accept its terms and conditions. So each party must sign the contract. Seal, the contract is traditionally contracts are sealed with a special sealing wax or corporate seal tools which are squeezed to crimp the page. Then deliver the contract to the parties involved so that each one has an identical copy of it. Here are some more characteristics of the specialty contract. In most countries, these must be witnessed, so there must be a witness to the signing. And in many countries, a deed must be registered. But these must be signed by all parties, that's one for sure. And these must always be in writing, that's for sure. And so those are characteristics of this specialty contract. And then the next question asking us, give two examples of a specialty contract. Two examples of the contract. And so we have contracts such as those for hire purchase. That's a specialty contract. That's an example of one right there. Contract to give land or property. Deed of gift. Contract to give land or property. Deed poll, used to change your name. Deed of conveyance, used in most countries to buy or sell land. Deed of family arrangement. Deed of easement, give rights over land. Deed of partnership, of course a mortgage deed, in most countries a mortgage deed. So those are examples of specialty contract. And as I said, also you have hire purchase and those kind of contracts. Those are specialty contracts. All these are examples of specialty contracts. So question 2D, describe one type of mistake in a contract. So describe one type of mistake in a contract. And so for this one, there are certain things that can be done that can cause a contract to be voided. So there are some mistakes, and because I said mistakes, I assume they're not talking about intentions to defraud or anything like that. So there are simple mistakes that can be made during a contract. For example, you can mistake the spelling of a name. You can make mistakes in terms of the quantity of an item. You can make mistakes in terms of the price. You can make mistakes in terms of location. You can make mistakes in the title, and those are ways you can make mistakes. And so sometimes they might be called misrepresentations in the contract. And so those are ways in which contracts can be voided, as in become null and void based on what would have happened. Sometimes you have what I call bilateral mistakes, where both parties make mistakes, such as both parties might have a different understanding of certain terms in the contract. So the terms in the contract are not clear to both parties, or both parties have different interpretations. Then might have unilateral mistakes, where just one party might have made that mistakes. So those are examples of mistakes that can be made in a contract. And the last question for number 2 on the last part for question 2 on the January 2018 POB past paper is, John agreed to deliver goods for Mary at a specified date and time. He fell ill and failed to deliver the goods at the agreed date and time. He eventually delivered the goods at a much later date. Explain 2 ways in which this contract was discharged or terminated. So 2 ways in which the contract was discharged or terminated. And so you have to read, but you have to know what ways in which contracts can be discharged or terminated. And so to answer this question, you might want to drop the definition on the paper. So the discharge of a contract refers to the ways in which a contract is terminated or comes to an end. This usually occurs when the parties that have entered into a contract together have completed the things they were required to do. However, A contract may sometimes be terminated before its legal obligations have been met. And so in this one, we are going to look at ways in which the contracts might have been discharged or terminated. And so here we go. So performance. When both parties have fulfilled or performed their contractual obligations, the contract is terminated. And in this case, in the book, we see that John did not really live up to his end of the bargain. And so the contract was terminated because John did not live up to what he said. He failed to deliver goods at the agreed time and date. So right there, we're going to have what we call a breach, right? There's a breach of the contract. So that's one way. There's a breach of contract. This is when one party fails to perform a contractual obligation. It can be non-performance. So in case of John did not deliver on time. Defective performance or late performance. And again, John did not deliver on time, so late performance. It allows the affected party to claim for damages and sometimes to terminate the contract. So there's a breach right there. Then we have lapse of time. A contract should be performed within a specified period of time, known as the period of limitation. The contract itself may be specified this time period, or the period of limitation may be specified by laws relating to various types of contracts. Once the period of limitation has elapsed, the contract is terminated. And so we can see two things happening right here with John: breach of contract and lapse of time. So the contract between John and Mary was discharged or terminated based on two things: breach, because John failed to deliver the goods he agreed on the agreed time and date, and also time lapse, because John eventually delivered them later. So we have two right there. So explain two ways in which a contract was discharged or terminated. So those are the two that I would choose to expound upon. So that's breach and also lapse of time. There are other ways it can be discharged or terminated. And of course, John didn't die, so that's not one. Performance. If the lady agreed that, okay, I accept it at that time, then fine, but we didn't say that. And so the best two is breach of contract and lapse of time. Cannot go wrong with those two answers. All right, so that's basically it for the January 2018 paper 2 for principles of business. To me, that question was very, very easy. And so, because the whole thing was based on one area, and so you read, you study this area, you study all the areas, of course, and you should be able to destroy that test come January 2021. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and of course, you know what to do. We're gonna knock off question 3 next time, so come back. So what you have to do now is subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the POB past paper drop. And please, share with your friend. Don't be selfish. Share with your friends. Alright? Alright, that's it for now from Learn SKN.